Hello, everybody. Welcome to the September 15th, 2025 OpenJS Security Collab Space weekly meeting. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Chris for just joining us. Good timing. So we are going to kick off with Raphael, who's going to talk to us about OpenJS Monitor. Let me know if you want to share your screen. I can stop sharing.
Um, I don't think I need to share, but basically the idea when we started conversation the discussion with Ulysses and Ben on the Alpha Omega Sync, we were okay. Let's take a look on all the projects, how if they are using security MD, if the security MD they are using is matches with the one we expect as a OpenJS Foundation project. Then we have faced some issues that okay, we have wrote some pull requests. We have helped them to improve their security MD, but how to monitor that? Because what if they change it tomorrow? We would never know because it's a lot of projects. So the idea is that we wrote this OpenJS monitor, which is basically it stores the checksum of the security MD or other important documents daily, and then whenever it changes we get a notification so we can review. Okay, they have changed the security MD because of this, and they have added this new row, and maybe we could expand that to other projects. And then the idea is to have a set of security checklist so we can check daily and get notified instead of being reactive. We go a bit more proactive on that. Um, so we are checking if the program or the repository has CodeKL configuration, if it has open security advisories, if it has opened the security policy from GitHub, and also if the security MD has not changed. So if you don't have access to this repository, I'm going to send in the chat, comment center, please ping me or Ulysses or Ben, we can add you. This is the project where we are is basically the command center of all the initiative we are doing with the Alpha Omega. So we are creating issues for each contact to each project. And we are also storing the monitor there. So Ben, if you want to go to the actions.
Sorry, we are recording. I think this is probably okay to show, right? Like there's,
Yeah.
okay.
Go to the actions. Yes. You go to the second one, the green. Yep. And then you open that. And there's the run monitor. Yes. This is the output. The idea is to have it on a JSON, a Markdown, or any way that we could automate and get notified on our app whenever it changes, But that's the pretty much the idea. So the next step is to include all the projects, and then we start enhancing what kind of secured measurements we want to monitor. So whenever they have a new security vulnerability to their packages, to their node modules, for instance, the package JSON, we get notified. So we can, if they don't fix that in 3 days, for instance, we can ping them. Oh, can we help you? Can we help to the project somehow? Can we make the fix or something like that? So that's the idea, the general scope of that. But yeah, that's it.
This is great. Do we think this should be a requirement for, I guess, so products don't have to do anything. We sort of add this on our own, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing we need to think about is when we onboard new projects, I think this is something that we need to add to our checklist. Because this
Yeah,
group this
yeah.
group won't necessarily know that a new project has been added to OpenJS, right?
Yes, that's correct. Whenever a new project is added to the OpenJS Foundation, we need to include that to the list of OpenJS projects that we are monitoring.
Yeah. Okay. Because we've got a couple in flight and that's top of mind. So I'll
Yeah,
add that.
you can add it to that an issue if you want, but yeah.
I'll just add it here just so I don't fuck some.
Okay.
to Oliver. Oh my God, I can't type this morning. Sorry. All right, cool. Any questions for Raphael? Very cool. Okay. Thank you, Raphael. Let's talk about CNA a little bit. We already talked about the CNA corner a little bit before. So there are two documents that we have for CNA, and I was going through them and I wanted to just double check here to see if these were still accurate or if I should make updates. There's a public facing guide, which I will throw into chat here. This is our OpenJS CNA guide for OpenJS maintainers. So I don't expect folks to like read through this here because this is pretty detailed, but it's something I would like a couple eyes on just to sanity check that this is still right and accurate. If not, I'm happy to make and help make updates to this. The second thing is our internal documentation, which I am going to share, even though this is being recorded because I think it's okay. And one of the things I wanted to add, actually two questions about this one. One is this all still accurate? And then the second is, would this be okay to add to our GitHub repository and make essentially public? I looked through here and I didn't see anything, but it would be good if a couple other folks could just vet it and say, yeah, okay, this looks okay to be public or not. The reason for that is I'd like it if as much of our stuff can be public as possible, and also, having it all in one spot in GitHub would be nice. So maybe that's just some homework. Yes, Ulysses.
I think this can be public. If I remember, I think we did it internally at the beginning just because we were like brainstorming about how this is going to be. So we started like from a document, and then the idea was to move to a Markdown format and then to GitHub.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think there is nothing. If I remember well, I will double check, but I think there's nothing sensitive here, like in terms of tokens or whatever. I mean, how we work should be public and clear anyway.
Okay.
Just to make it simple for next generation of CNA members to onboard and also for others to understand how we work. So plus one to make it public if there is anything. I mean, there's nothing that prevents us from doing that.
Okay. So how about we do this? I'll also post this question into our Slack channel and basically say if anyone objects to me putting this public, please raise your hand. If not, next week I'll move it in there and I'll make updates where I can. I do want to go through, as I go through the CNA training, I might have some updates to these documents, but prior to that, I'm not super familiar with this stuff. So if there are other things that folks want updated, like just either do a pull request or let me know. So we can work on that together.
Yeah, probably including also like the links to the videos of the learning for the CNA and stuff. That might be also useful because all of this info is actually public. So yeah, anyone who is interested in the CNA universe,
Okay.
it's a good group of resources. Yeah.
Okay. So let me take some notes here. All right. It's a lot of to-dos for me here. What am I doing? I am going to just about CNA docs Slack. And then as I was auditing CNA stuff, I noticed our website here. And again, I'm just like making sure that things are all accurate. I think this is probably up to date. Just say draft policy version, which this should probably not be a draft anymore. But other than that, it would be good if folks could just take a peek here.
Yeah, we can
Again,
do a review of this, but so far I think was pretty good. We just need to remove probably the draft word. Yeah, because it's the
Yeah.
current policy anyway.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and again, I may have more insight into what the content should be after I go through the training. Right now, I'm kind of just reading it as an outsider, not necessarily tactically about like, okay, if I actually need to do any of these things step by step, is this clear? Okay. All right, that's the CNA stuff. Anything else related to that before we move on? All right, cool. What is this GitHub issue that's in here? Oh yes, our old friend, minimal security templates.
Yeah, I think we got that merged and it got approved by the CPC.
Great.
Yeah, we can do a follow-up on this next week. I created all the PRs for all the projects within the foundation except the Emeritus ones, because most of the Emeritus ones are like archived. So technically there's no way to do a PR unless we unarchive them to do the PR, so that probably makes no sense. So yeah, I'm collecting also feedback from the maintainers because part of the escalation process of the CNA, like these two sentences that we have about if nobody replies to you like in 6 days, if I remember, like as a placeholder, or in 2 weeks, stuff like that, you should contact by mail to the CNA. This was in some cases not clear. I mean, some maintainers ask for clarification in terms of what is escalation intent, in terms of is it a bypass or not, or how that works. So I think is probably lack of familiarity with the CNA, with the foundation CNA from the project perspective. So I imagine also from the reporter's perspective will happen the same thing. So probably maybe makes sense to do some rewarding around this. So with the Fastify PR, we are doing some rewarding now. So my idea is try to bring this back next week that I can collect more feedback from other projects because they have like dozens of PRs open with this exact text on all the projects, so we can collect and see. Worth to mention that some projects already merge them, like jQuery and Node.js, for example. So probably I think it's going to be kind of okay for many projects, but just in case we have some room for improvements. So yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
so
great.
I will bring this next week.
Yeah, and I will say like this is very clear, not a lot of words, easy to understand, and I think that's a really good our projects, a lot of folks are very busy, and so
Yeah,
this is
yeah. For a project that doesn't have any policy or they have a very partial policy, this
yeah.
seems a good upgrade. But for projects that have like a large policy with threat models and processes and stuff like that, really more serious, then the escalation is not that clear how they fit for larger projects. So that might be most of the feedback. But yeah, we can work on that. Also, was to mention that the idea of the people who is watching, I mean, for the ones watching this recording from previous versions when we discussed this, the idea is to have this as a template. So basically, you can customize the text a little bit when you keep the aim, right? So yeah, probably we can do that with Fastify.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that one? All right, we want to talk about NPM, our old friend.
I can jump
Rafael.
into it. Or
Yeah.
Rafa, do you want to jump into it? Okay, we'll jump into it. So basically, the idea is for those who doesn't know, there is like a heavy campaign on NPM about trying to steal in tokens for maintainers and using those tokens to publish malicious versions. So right now, Fastify and Express are experimenting on trying to avoid the use of tokens and having some kind of GitHub action automation to do the publication. When that process is clear on the projects, I think we can bring this to the security Collab space to do a final review together, see if that makes sense, if we detect anything flaky there. And basically, the idea then is to suggest this as a security setup or automation that is kind of validated for other projects who are having a similar experience, right? So the idea probably can be like from avoiding to do as a primary option, like local publication of NPM, which is a very common one, And also if you are doing, especially if you are using like a CI, like have access or whatever, how to do this without disable the second factor authentication, which is the tricky thing as well, right? Aside of the phishing campaign, the problem of just stalling the token and not having the second factor authentication is an issue when you do the publication, right? So basically this is something that we are exploring. So probably we can bring some more news probably next week, or at least we can keep it in the agenda for a while. Yeah, I will include also in the notes the reference to the issues where we are discussing this, so we can have more context.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder.
That,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Rafael.
one thing that could be worth discussing, but I mean, I don't think we will come up with actions or solutions for that, but is to start recommending maintainers to use the new OEDC integration with NPM to publish packages. So instead of publishing packages using your token locally, try to always use an automated machine for that. And there are still some cases where it can be hijacked, but I think it mitigates most of the phishing risks that affected the recent issue with some packages.
Are Ulysses and Rafael, are you actually doing the work on these, or are other folks implementing? I ask because if it's other folks, we might want to invite them to present on what they did.
This is a feature from NPM, and we are trying to adopt that on Fast5, for instance. But I'm going to send the request in the chat. Just sent here, and the idea is very simple. Once you have a well-established workflow that published your version, your new version, you just need to connect that in the NPM, and then you tell NPM, okay, this action is allowed to publish a new version. So you don't need a GitHub tokens anymore. You just need to, and this will publish the package with provenance. So I think this is a slight safer approach.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we'll keep this on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Robert.
Once you decide on sort of a best practice, let's definitely blog about it and push it out on our social media channels. I saw a link that Wes is presenting at the summit on that as well in October, but if we can get something out earlier, that would be great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, also probably we need to update the best practices for NPM publication. I think we have a document that includes that. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments about that one? All right, Ulysses, threat modeling.
Yeah, we are evangelizing heavily about threat modeling, and Webpack is also part of it now. So we have the threat model for Webpack. The idea was to ask for feedback from this group on the threat model that we did for Webpack. It's heavily based on the one that we did for Express time ago. The good thing of, I think Webpack is quite different from Express in the sense that it's more like a development tool. It's not meant to be used like in production as you can do, for example, for Express. As you know, as an HTTP server, it's more like you use it to build assets and stuff, right? So that was a little bit tricky to describe on the threat modeling. So it will be great to collect some feedback from you on this and see if we can enrich it. Also, something that we included here is we mentioned actual CVEs that we have in the past. So it's a great option also to showcase cases and explain why that was fit on this policy or not. So maybe that will prevent some AI and human feedback, I mean, reports that are created with low quality to be prevented, hopefully. So yeah, that was the idea. So also we are trying to help in other projects to start adopting the threat modeling. And yeah, I was thinking that maybe we can also collect all the threat models that we have around, because some projects already have one, have some of them. So maybe it's a good option to include them like in a document and maybe describe a little bit how to do your own threat modeling for projects outside of the foundation who are interested on this. So maybe that'd be a good option as well, or maybe a potential blog post or something to help in other projects to adopt this practice.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot of GitHub issues and activity recently about this stuff, which is kind of cool to see. So thanks for that. I realize it's a lot of chasing. Okay. Anyone have any questions or any feedback about the threat modeling stuff? Well, that brings us to the end of our official agenda. So any walk-on topics that folks would like to chat about? I guess not. Well, in that case, should we adjourn early? Sounds like a yes. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all. Great to see
Yeah.
you.
Good work, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye, Chris. Bye, Steve.
Bye.
Bye.